Alright, hello citizens of the Nigelverse. It's Nigel once again, and this is going to be another wrestling review. Sometimes you can't take life slow. It's nice to take life slow, but sometimes you gotta take life into the fast lane. So, I'm of course talking about the Fastlane event by WWE, which took place last night. As always, I'm not professional wrestling reviewer, analyst, just a man who enjoys a good time, and which, for the most part, I did. Now, I feel like part of this was impacted by me still not feeling too well, although thankfully it's my cold is starting to subside a little bit. But yeah, did impact it a little bit, but otherwise still a pretty decent show for the most part. Excuse me, if you've seen these reviews of mine before, you kind of already know how this works. If you haven't, I'm going to be talking about what I liked and what I disliked about the event, and I'm going to go match by match. As there are some additional preliminaries that we have to discuss, but otherwise, we're going to go match by match and talk about what I liked and what I disliked. I know Collision also happened last night. I think they did. I think they did Collision earlier in the show, if I'm not mistaken, and it happened earlier in the night, if I am not mistaken. Yeah, so that started at 7, and some interesting stuff went down on the show, including Ricky Starks and Big Bill winning the tag team championships, the AEW World Tag Team Championships. So of course, congrats to them. And they pointed out that this was the first time Big Bill had ever won the tag team championships. It was across any promotion, or even I think just first time he's won championship gold period across any promotion. Obviously in Impact, I think while he might be associated with a group, I forget, but even in NXT and WWE, when he was part of Enzo and Cass, he never won the tag titles, which is still insane to think about, especially considering how over they were. But congrats to Big Bill for winning there, and of course Ricky Starks. He's been on a roll lately, so I guess they are officially moving forward with Ricky Starks and Big Bill as a team, which is nice. But nevertheless, back to the Fast Lane. Speaking of AEW, who on the pre-show, Jade Cargill arrived to Fastlane. They said she was going to be there. At least he's like the dirt sheets and everything said she was going to be there, and lo and behold, she was. She showed up. Had I didn't watch it, but I saw images of it. She had like a little segment with Triple H and everything, with her pulling up. I guess it's official and everything. And they say she's going to be a part of the Raw brand moving forward. Or at least she's expected to be a part of the Raw brand moving forward. So, cool. I'm excited for that. But now getting into the show proper, we kick off with the tag team match for the Undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships. The championships that they still won't split apart on Raw and SmackDown. As the Judgment Day. That being Finn Balor and Damian Priest. He's defend against Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso. Kind of an interesting team up for Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso. And they brought up repeatedly kind of the history of Cody Rhodes versus the Bloodline, and albeit kind of brief history between Cody Rhodes and the Bloodline, and now how he and Jey Uso are now a team. They brought up that both Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso were tag team champions with their other teams. They didn't bring up who for Cody Rhodes, but Cody Rhodes obviously won them with his brother Dustin, who is in AEW, so that's probably why. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Cody also won them with Damian Sandow, if I'm not mistaken. He also did win them with Hardcore Holly. So I'm just gonna take a little look-see here. He's a 4-time champion. Or actually 5-time champion. Or actually 4. So 4-time because the titles are. Oh, wait a minute. Hey, hang on. Yeah. So looks like 7-time actually. Dang. So he won them with Drew McIntyre, which I almost forgot they were a team. Then 2 times with Goldust, 1 with Jey Uso, and showed it for Raw and SmackDown because the titles are unified. Then he won the World Tag Team Championships with Hardcore Holly and Ted DiBiase Jr. as part of Priceless/Legacy. So he saw Cody Rhodes, some acumen there, and of course Jey Uso as part of the Usos. But can they win Tag Team Gold here again? And they did. They defeated the Judgment Day. Even after all the interference from the Judgment Day, ultimately J.D. McDonough accidentally nailing Damian Priest with his own Money in the Bank is what did them in. So I guess now J.D. McDonough is in the doghouse when it comes to the Judgment Day. And Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso picking up the win. Kind of a cool double team maneuver with kind of like a 1D, which they pointed out in commentary, so I guess that was intentional, with Cody hitting the Cody Cutter while Jey Uso hit the, I believe that's called the Flapjack, that move. I believe it is called the Flapjack, where he like picks him up and drops him. So kind of a 1D maneuver, but that was pretty cool. Pretty decent match between the two. And congrats to the new tag team champions. And then there was the press conference afterwards with Jay and Cody. He's showing up a little bit tipsy. Excuse me, I might do that a few times in this video, but they showed up a little bit tipsy. I didn't see their entire interview and everything, but them showing up tipsy was pretty funny. And I guess I learned something new because either Cody drank less than Jay, or Cody does a better job of hiding when he's like out of it. Jay, it was a little more obvious, but Cody still has the same like speech and cadence and everything. So props to that. But it was pretty funny. And wonder what they'll do with the team moving forward. But next up, the LWO seek to take on Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. Now, originally, it is still a 6-man tag. Originally, it was going to be Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits, the new team that they have, which may or may not add Ozzy Jones to it, which would be pretty cool, especially give Ozzy Jones something to do since he's on SmackDown, but I don't think he's appeared on TV yet. But Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits obviously been on a tear heel run, new heel faction for Bobby Lashley, and meanwhile Rey Mysterio and the LWO have been battling them. So originally it's going to be Rey, Santos Escobar, and I believe Cruz del Toro. It was either him or Joaquin Wilde, but it almost didn't matter because both of them were taken out by Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. So Rey made a phone call, said the phone call wasn't returned, but was confident that the last man would show up. They battled. So for the time being, they battled the Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. They battled against them 2-on-3, and so the LWO is still holding their own. The Street Profits, it's a bit more aggressive, but also a lot more cocky and everything. And the Street Profits kind of coming into their own as heels, after being face for so long, which I thought was interesting. But then the last man shows up for the LWO, and it's Hollywood Hogan. I'm kidding, it's Carlito. To the surprise of no one, Carlito answered the call. He did indeed show up. He has new theme music, which on one hand is nice that he got new theme music, and it shows that he's going to be staying. But on the other hand, man, his old theme was so iconic. It was iconic. It was cool, if you will. Some pun intended. It was cool. This new one didn't sound bad. But yeah. So he showed up, helped out the LWO, and they pick up the win there over Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. So, Lashley and the Profits taking the L there, but I'm sure they will bounce back from this. And Carlito, I guess, is now permanently a part of the LWO. He had previously shown up at a Backlash earlier on in the year, which if you haven't already, go check out my review of Backlash from a few months ago to help out the LWO. But now, I guess he is an official member. Especially with Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro being out for the time being. Congrats to them on the win. And if you can believe it, this was the shortest match of the night at 10 minutes. There was only 5 matches on the card, but each match was pretty lengthy, actually. So it made a stretch across the 3 hours. It was only 5 matches, but it made it work. And I think I think it does work to give each match kind of like able to flesh out each match so no match feels rushed. I know people usually prefer like the bigger cards, but sometimes with the bigger cards, some matches you gotta cut it short. But here, each match was able to be fleshed out and everything, which is nice. But then next up for the WWE Women's Championship and triple threat, for a triple threat for the WWE Women's Championship. Io Sky sought to defend her title against Asuka and Charlotte Flair, and able to do so. Pretty decent match, pretty decent action between the three women. All three of these women capable of putting on a good match, of course. Ultimately, Io Sky picking up the win after they do the classic tapping out, but not the end of the match, because the referee was distracted by Bayley, who had came out despite Io Sky's wishes. But ended up saving her. She distracted the referee as Asuka was tapping out to the figure eights. Then Io Sky, with a massive moonsault. I don't think I've mentioned it before on the channel, but man, Io Sky has a fantastic moonsault. Nailing the moonsault in order to pick up the win over both Asuka and Charlotte Flair. So Io Sky retains there, so congrats to her on the retention, and yeah, a pretty decent match for the most part. Then next up, the match I'm sure everybody was waiting for, the penultimate match, the semi-main event, that being John Cena, the GOAT, and the megastar LA Knight, taking on the Bloodline, that being Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. But before that, for starters, got to shout out that sick car that LA Knight pulled up to in Fastlane with like the Slim Jim and everything on the car. Man, that car looks fantastic. I want that car. Or I actually don't have my driver's license yet, but once I get it, I want that car. Or LA Knight, have your people talk to my people. Oh yeah, but the sick car. But then also Pat McAfee shows up, which makes sense because we are in Indianapolis, and of course Pat McAfee playing for the Indianapolis Colts. Even had the Indianapolis Colts championship belt with him, because WWE has championship belts for all the NFL teams except for the Jaguars. I wonder why, but now to be fair, the excuse they gave is that they're sold out. Sure, let's go with that. But Pat McAfee shows up, talk with the crowd a little bit. It even suggested a WrestleMania in Indianapolis. Could you imagine? And pretty much doing almost the same speech that John Cena gave at Money in the Bank when they were in London, which if you haven't already, go check out my review of Money in the Bank. But almost kind of a similar speech saying, hey, Indianapolis deserves a WrestleMania, and the crowd seemed to be into that. So Pat McAfee joined Michael Cole and Corey Graves on commentary here, or as Cena and LA Knight battled the Bloodline. But the other thing is, it took about 30 plus years, but it finally happened. At least he's visibly. Paul Heyman has finally gone gray. It took a while. Now, people say, hey, he dyed his hair and everything, which has a point, but still, something about Paul Heyman finally going gray, at least going visible gray, no longer dyeing his hair and everything. They said it was to help further the storyline of him stressing out with all the developments in the Bloodline, with Jay leaving, with the Tribal Chief going on vacay, with Jimmy trying to weasel his way back into the Bloodline. They mentioned that as to why Paul Heyman's gone gray, but it is still crazy to see. And Pat definitely ripped into Paul on commentary about the gray hair, saying talking about how bad he looks with the gray hair. Honestly, Paul Heyman used to look a lot worse, if you could believe it. Compared to some of his other looks, the gray is not as bad as they were putting over on commentary. I get, Paul's the heel and the commentators are supposed to be face, aside from Corey Graves. But still, yeah, Paul used to look a lot worse, if you can believe it. And that's even before he fully started going gray. But nevertheless, this match essentially to put over John Cena to an extent, but mostly LA Knight. Hey, LA Knight definitely, of course, having the rocket strapped to him, thankfully, because he definitely has earned it. But essentially, he showcased for that. And LA Knight didn't even get into the match until very late. For a while, Jimmy and Solo, and of course, put over Jimmy and Solo as well. And I don't think I've mentioned it before on the channel, but what do you guys think? Who has the better solo theme, Jimmy or Jay? For me, I think both are pretty good for different reasons. Like Jimmy, he's sounding closer to like Roman's theme, with some different elements. I think it's a nice touch, him trying to fall back on the bloodline. Meanwhile, Jay sounded like the Usos theme because he never obviously forgot the Usos, but having to go out on his own because of all the developments and everything. And so I think both themes are good for different reasons. If I had to pick one overall quality in terms of like being an absolute earworm, I might have to go with Jimmy, but I end up liking both themes. But nevertheless, Jimmy and Solo do womp on Cena until LA Knight finally tags in, and the crowd does go nuts for LA Knight when he finally tags in. Eventually LA Knight putting away, I believe it was Jimmy he nailed with the BFT. In order to pick up the win for both Cena and LA Knight, excuse me, LA Knight raising Cena's hand at the end was pretty cool, showing his respect to him. But now we move into the main event. But before that, we see a segment with the Judgment Day where for starters, JD's not with them, which I guess is maybe a sign of things to come. JD's not with them, but Damian wanting to cash in Money in the Bank, and because he doesn't want to go home empty-handed, but Rhea stops him, tells him he's in no condition because his leg is messed up, and makes her hand him, makes him hand her, man, I messed up, makes him hand her the Money in the Bank contract so that he doesn't cash it in. Although, considering what the next match is, and considering the condition that the world champion is in afterwards, he probably, even with a bum leg, he might have been able to cash it in. But who walked out the world champion in Last Man Standing? Let's find out as Seth freaking Rollins defends the World Heavyweight Championship against Shinsuke Nakamura. In Last Man Standing action, they mentioned on commentary that this was Seth Rollins' first ever Last Man Standing match. They mentioned the Last Man Standing match between Shinsuke and AJ back in 2018 for the WWE Championship, and if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the one that ended in the double count as a result of the double low blow, so fun. And man, it just takes me back to how they butchered the crap out of that feud. But they mentioned this is Seth's first Last Man Standing match. If that is true, wow, I'm surprised it took him this long. But if I'm not mistaken, and maybe I am, maybe I'm remembering this wrong, I remember, maybe it's like a Mandela effect on my part, but I remember one of his matches against Dean Ambrose being Last Man Standing. But obviously, I guess I'm wrong about that. But let me know. But they mentioned. And this is Seth Rollins' first Last Man Standing match, which almost kind of gave away that Seth was walking out the champion here, which, by the way, Seth did walk out champion. But I don't think it detracted from the match too much, especially because the match was still fantastic. While I wasn't able to do predictions because I ended up moving System Shock Radio to tomorrow instead of recording it like I was supposed to yesterday, I did kind of think that either this or maybe Cena and LA Knight against the Bloodline would be match of the night, and this was a really solid match. Just as good, if not perhaps better, because of the stipulation than their match at Payback, but this was still a really solid match between the two. Who Seth Rollins showing a lot of grit and determination. Shinsuke targeting the back of Seth Rollins almost throughout the entire match. Seth taking quite a few bumps, including falling on the mattress or the mattress that was near the stage area, or maybe like a crash pad, at a mattress type crash pad or something like that, that Seth Rollins fell onto, which some people criticize for it being visible, but and for it being there, but at the same time, geez, you don't want Seth Rollins to die. But when Shinsuke nailed Seth Rollins with the mist, and Seth fell through the ladder into the table. Honestly, if it had ended there with Seth losing off of that, I think it also would have been solid. Like Seth still, who for the most part really getting into the groove of being the world champion and everything, wanting to be the workman's champion, really wanting to elevate the World Heavyweight Championship now that it's back on Raw. And I think feud with Shinsuke, he is definitely able to do that, showing how far he's willing to go to try to put over the championship. He's trying his best. It's still kind of a consolation prize, but Seth, he's trying. But also, if Shinsuke had won, I don't think too many people would have been mad at it. In fact, I feel like it was kind of split down the middle. Like half the people wanted Seth to win, half the people wanted Shinsuke to win. And honestly, I would have been fine with either because you can make a case for both these guys walking out world champion, but also still a fantastic match, concluding with Seth nailing a Falcon's arrow onto who I believe was a crate, dropping Shinsuke, and that's what won in the match. Shinsuke stood on his feet for a second, but then fell right back over. Seth ultimately standing on his feet in order to pick up the win and retain the World Heavyweight Championship. So, fantastic match. It is the longest match of the night at 28 minutes, 25 seconds, but still a fantastic match. A really solid match. As for whether or not the feud with Shinsuke will continue from there, I don't think it will, and I don't think it should. Seth ultimately putting away Shinsuke here. And I think Shinsuke, I think he should still get a focus, obviously, because I love Shinsuke Nakamura, and him being heel again is really cool. But maybe keep him out of the world title picture for now. Have him come back in later, but have Seth battle somebody else for the world title for the time being. But nevertheless, that's a pretty good match, and that is going to do it for Fastlane. So if I had to pick the strongest and weakest match of the night, the strongest match, I definitely got to give it to the Last Man Standing match, at both Seth Rollins and Shinsuke Nakamura tore the house down. In terms of like the weakest match of the night, I might have to go with either the triple threats or the 6-man tag. Both still pretty decent, but just not as potent, I guess, as the other matches. But nevertheless, that's going to do it for this review. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor: like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, turn on post notifications so you know every time I upload a video, so you can see as soon as it drops. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on Fastlane and my review. Did you like to select Fastlane? Did you like to select my review of Fastlane? Let me know. Thank you all so much for watching. Sorry, and I will see you guys later. Peace.